Millionaire sees a widow with a dying baby in the hospital. What he did shocked everyone. The Los Angeles rain came hard that night, pounding the streets in sheets of silver, flashing with red and blue ambulance lights. Sirens howled through the city like cries of exhaustion. A black sedan slid into the parking lot of St. Mary's Hospital, brakes screeching, water splashing. Ethan Caldwell stepped out, coat drenched, breath sharp and uneven. "Patient Margaret Caldwell just admitted," he said quickly at the reception desk. The nurse glanced at her clipboard. "Emergency ward, waiting for a CT scan. Please, take a seat." Take a seat. Two simple words, but under the flickering fluorescent lights, surrounded by the hum of fear and pain, they felt unbearable. Ethan stood motionless for a moment, jaw tight. He was a man of control, a man the world saw as success incarnate. Yet tonight, amid the smell of antiseptic and despair, he was just a grandson terrified of losing the only family he had left. Then came a sound, faint, trembling, a plea hidden in the chaos. He turned. In the corner sat a young woman, soaked from the rain, cradling a baby no older than a few months. The child's breathing rasped weakly, her face flushed, eyes half closed. The mother pressed a trembling hand to her forehead and whispered, "Stay with me, Luna. Please don't sleep." A nurse's voice cut across the room. "Ma'am, you'll have to wait. 68 patients ahead." "But she's only 3 months old." "Only critical cases go first." The young mother's shoulders collapsed. She bit her lip hard enough to bleed, fighting tears. The cold light painted her face pale, exhausted, but her grip on the baby never loosened, as if letting go meant losing the world itself. Something cracked inside Ethan's chest. Not pity, recognition. A loneliness he had buried beneath success. He took a step closer, speaking softly. "Can I help you? I might know someone." She looked up, eyes red and raw. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. I just thought—" "You think because you wear a suit and have money, you can save anyone you want?" The words hung in the air, sharp and cold. Ethan froze. Outside, rain beat harder against the glass like impatient knocking from fate itself. He said nothing. She looked down again, holding her child tighter. "All I need is a doctor," she whispered. Ethan's gaze drifted to the baby, so small, fragile, her breath fading in and out, then back to the mother who refused to surrender. There was something sacred about that defiance. He'd seen poverty before, seen tragedy on screens, but never so close, never with a name and a heartbeat. "Luna," the woman whispered again. "Mommy's right here. I'm not leaving you." The sound of rain merged with the rhythm of their breathing. And as Ethan stood there, motionless, something within him shifted. That night, a billionaire and a mother met in the heart of despair. And neither of them knew that this storm would mark the beginning of everything that would change their lives forever. The rain outside hadn't stopped. Its rhythm mixed with the hospital intercom, forming a slow, sorrowful symphony. Elena sat in the corner of the hallway, clutching Luna tightly to her chest. The baby no longer cried. Her breath came faint, fragile. Every rise and fall of that tiny chest made Elena's heart contract painfully. "Please, nurse, at least check her temperature," she begged. "You'll have to wait," the nurse replied flatly, eyes fixed on her computer. Elena backed away, silent. 6 hours. 6 endless hours in the crowded ER, surrounded by coughs, moans, and muted sobs. Time didn't pass. It simply hung heavy in the air. A man coughed violently nearby. Another child vomited into his mother's arms. The smell of disinfectant and blood blended with sweat and fear. Elena was used to poverty, but not to this density of despair. She looked down at Luna, her skin slick with sweat, lips turning blue. Across from her, Ethan watched quietly. He didn't know if he was waiting for news of his grandmother or for something else entirely. Every flicker of the emergency light pulled his eyes back to the mother holding her child with such desperate strength that it hurt to watch. The wall clock struck 9. Elena bent forward, whispering, "You're doing so well, baby. Just a little longer. Mommy's here." She lifted the bottle to her daughter's lips, but Luna couldn't suck anymore. A drop of milk ran down her collar, cold and heavy. Her husband's face appeared in her mind. Miguel Torres, smiling the day he left for work at the construction site, never to return. "You're stronger than you think," he used to say. "I just want a normal life," she'd laugh. "Then live. For Luna." She pressed her daughter closer. "I'm trying, Miguel," she whispered. A crash, then a scream. "No, Luna!" Ethan shot to his feet. The baby had gone limp in her mother's arms, her head tilting lifelessly. "She's unconscious," he shouted. Nurses rushed in, pulling the child from Elena's trembling hands. "Move! Emergency code!" Elena stumbled, collapsing to the floor, reaching out as the stretcher wheeled away. "Don't take her, please." A door slammed shut between her and her daughter. Only the sound of rain remained, hammering against the windows. Ethan stood frozen, breath caught in his throat. The woman knelt on the floor, sobbing soundlessly. The helplessness was unbearable, something he hadn't felt in years, not since before success had insulated him from pain. And now, all his money, all his power, useless. He knelt beside her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. Elena looked up, tears streaking her face. "If she dies, it's because they didn't listen. I begged them." "Don't say that," Ethan murmured. "She's strong. She'll make it." "You don't know that." "Maybe not, but I know she needs her mother." Elena's hand clutched his, desperate, trembling. And for the first time in years, Ethan felt warmth, human and raw. A nurse finally emerged, panting. "The baby's stable for now, but she needs to be admitted immediately, possibly transferred to another hospital." Elena nearly collapsed, half laughing, half crying. "Thank God." Ethan stood, watching her. Under the dim corridor light, her face looked like a crack in his perfect world, proof that compassion wasn't pity. It was courage in motion. That night, as Luna lay in recovery, Ethan remained outside, silent. Through the glass, he watched Elena stroke her baby's hair, whispering again and again, "Thank you. Thank you for staying with me." Outside, the storm finally eased, but inside both their hearts, another storm had only just begun. Morning crept slowly through the hospital windows, pale light spilling across weary faces after a long night. Elena sat by the bed, eyes hollow but fixed on Luna, whose breathing was steadier now, her cheeks returning to color. Every beep of the monitor felt like a pulse in Elena's own chest. In the corridor, Ethan Caldwell leaned against the wall, a cold coffee cup forgotten in his hand. He hadn't slept, but exhaustion didn't matter. Something inside him refused to rest, as if part of him had been saved along with that child. When the nurse informed him that Margaret Caldwell had regained consciousness, he rushed to her room. She lay in bed, head bandaged, yet still smiling softly. "It's just a little fall. Don't look so worried," she teased, voice raspy. He sat beside her, holding her hand. "You scared me." "Have you been here all night?" He nodded. "Not just for me, I suppose?" Margaret's knowing eyes caught his. "I heard about the young mother and her baby. You care about them, don't you?" Ethan didn't answer, but the image of Elena collapsed in despair haunted him. His grandmother smiled faintly. "Helping others is good, Ethan. But remember, help without humility only makes people feel small." He blinked. "You think I think you mean well, but kindness from above can still wound. No one wants to feel like charity, especially a mother fighting for her child. Her words cut deep, painfully true. He lowered his gaze, silence falling between them. When he stepped back into the hall, he saw Elena sitting alone, hair tousled, wrapped in a thin hospital blanket. He approached carefully. "How's the baby?" "She's better," she said, guarded. "Thank you for getting the nurse last night." "It was nothing. You don't have to do anything else. I don't owe you." Her voice was sharp, almost trembling. Ethan froze, then nodded. "All right. I'm just glad she's okay." As he walked away, his grandmother's words echoed in his mind. Help without humility. Hours later, he found himself outside their room again. The door was ajar. Inside, Elena dozed off by the crib, her head resting on her arm. Luna slept peacefully in the incubator, one tiny hand pressed against the glass. The scene caught him like a photograph. Fragile, raw, human. He thought of the night his parents died, when he was 17. The sterile halls, the smell of disinfectant, the way Margaret had held his hand and whispered, "You still have me." Years later, he'd built walls of steel and glass around himself. Success, distance, control, forgetting what love looked like. Now, watching this woman and her child, he remembered. When Elena stirred awake, she noticed him standing by the door. "Why are you still here?" He didn't hesitate. "Because I don't want to leave until I know you're both all right." She looked at him for a long moment, suspicion fading just slightly. "You don't have to." "Maybe I do," he said quietly. "Because last night I felt helpless for the first time in years." Elena glanced down at her daughter. When you're poor, you learn not to ask for help. People start thinking kindness is a transaction. No one should think that about you. She let out a tired, honest laugh. "What do you know about being poor?" "Not much," he admitted. "But I know what it's like to lose everything." Something shifted in her expression. For the first time, she looked at him not as a stranger, but as someone who also carried invisible scars. Inside, the monitor beeped softly, the rhythm of hope itself. They didn't speak again. The afternoon sun filtered through the window, bathing them in quiet gold. Two people from opposite worlds, bound by loss, sitting in silence. And in that silence, something small, fragile, and real began to take root. The first thread of connection between two souls who had both forgotten how to be saved. 3 days later, St. Mary's Hospital was chaos. A sudden respiratory outbreak had flooded the pediatric ward. Children cried, nurses rushed, intercoms blared. In the cramped room, Elena held Luna tight, watching the doctor speak with a pained expression. "I'm sorry," he said briskly. "We're out of pediatric beds. We have to prioritize more critical cases. Your daughter isn't on the urgent list yet." Elena froze. "But she's still feverish, still struggling to breathe. How can I just wait?" "We understand, but until her condition worsens—" "Worsens?" she snapped. "You're telling me she has to get worse before you'll help?" The doctor avoided her gaze and nodded slightly. Across the hall, Ethan heard everything. His hands clenched around his phone. He had promised himself not to interfere. "Help without humility only makes others feel small," his grandmother had said. But now, watching the baby gasping for air, he realized that sometimes helping wasn't condescension. It was the only moral choice left. Rain fell again, thick and cold, tapping against the hospital window like an endless sorrowful rhythm. Under the pale fluorescent lights, Elena sat beside her daughter's bed, eyes hollow from sleepless nights. Luna breathed in shallow, raspy bursts, her skin pale, her tiny hand twitching as if reaching for warmth. Every beep from the monitor sliced through her heart. All Elena could do was hold that fragile hand and whisper, "I'm here, Luna. Mommy's here. Don't be afraid." The doctor entered, his tone clipped and weary. "We need more blood tests to identify the bacteria, but the lab equipment's down. We may have to send the samples to another facility. It could take a few days." Elena stared at him in disbelief. A few days? She might not have a few hours. The man lowered his gaze. "We'll do everything we can." Then he left, and the room seemed to shrink around her, the silence crushing. Ethan arrived with 2 steaming cups of coffee. He didn't speak right away, only watched the woman who seemed smaller than the shadow she cast under the white light. Finally, he said, his voice steady but quiet, "I can help. I can add you both to my company's insurance. At Westbridge, they can process everything in hours." Elena lifted her head, exhaustion sharpening into defiance. "What did you just say?" "I just want to help." "Help?" She laughed, dry and broken. "You think I need pity? When people help from above, it only reminds those below how small they are. That's not what this is." "Yes, it is." She rose abruptly, eyes bright with unshed tears. "Do you know how much I've lost just to keep what little dignity I have left? I won't lose myself because of someone's kindness." Ethan said nothing. He only watched her through the dim reflection of rain on glass. His grandmother had been right. Help without humility could wound deeper than silence. He nodded slightly. "All right, I won't push, but if anything changes, I'll be here." Elena didn't answer. She turned back to her child, gathering Luna into her arms as if letting go would mean losing everything. Ethan stepped outside but didn't leave. From the corridor, he could see her through the window, a mother fighting an entire universe with nothing but her will to love. Night fell, the storm intensifying. Lightning flared. Then Luna cried, weakly, then not at all. Elena called for help, her voice drowned by the rain. She looked down and saw her baby's body tense, then go still. "No, no, Luna!" The door burst open as Ethan ran in. The scene hit him like a nightmare repeating itself. Elena clutching her child, screaming as doctors rushed in. "She's seizing! We need immediate transfer!" "No, don't take her! No one takes her!" Elena cried, thrashing in panic. Ethan reached her, gripping her shoulders. "Elena, listen to me. You have to trust them. Let them save her." Her wild, terrified eyes met his, then shattered. She sobbed, the words tearing from her chest. "Please, save my baby." He stepped into the corridor, dialed David Cooper, his old friend and CEO of Westbridge Medical Center. "David, I need an emergency pediatric bed," he said curtly. "Ethan, you know the protocol." "There's no time. A 3-month-old severe infection at St. Mary's. She won't last the night." A pause. Then, "Send me her name." "Luna Torres." 10 minutes later, a nurse burst in. "We have an emergency transfer order for baby Luna Torres. Prep for transport." Elena stared, stunned. "But I didn't apply for a transfer." "It came directly from Westbridge," the nurse replied. Ethan approached quietly. "I know you don't want charity, but if I didn't make that call tonight, I wouldn't sleep." She looked at him, confused, torn between gratitude and pride. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I was once the one waiting for someone to save me," he said softly. "And I was lucky they did." Elena couldn't argue. She nodded faintly, tears falling as the stretcher rolled her daughter away. At Westbridge Medical Center, the world seemed gentler. Quiet corridors, warm lights, the scent of lavender sanitizer. Doctors worked swiftly. Luna's small body was hooked up to modern monitors. Elena sat by the window, clutching her worn bag, staring blankly at the traffic below. Ethan arrived, placing a paper bag beside her. Fresh clothes, formula, a bottle of warm water. "You should change and rest," he said. "I can't. If I close my eyes, I'm afraid she'll disappear." "She won't. She's in good hands now." Elena sighed. "You make it sound easy." "It isn't. I just choose to believe it. Otherwise, I'd lose my mind." He sat beside her. Silence lingered, broken only by the hum of machines and the soft patter of lingering rain. "I used to think I was strong," Elena whispered. "But last night, I felt small." "Being weak isn't failure," Ethan replied. "Sometimes it's how we remember we're alive." She gave a faint smile. "You talk like someone who's already died." He paused. "In a way, I have." Her eyes turned to him. "When I was 17, my parents died in a car crash. My grandmother, Margaret, was a nurse. She held me together with trembling hands. But as I built my life, I drifted away. I thought success could replace meaning. It can't." He looked toward Luna. "Then I saw you, and I remembered some things can't be bought back once they're gone." Elena's expression softened. "Maybe I was wrong about people," she murmured. "Maybe," Ethan smiled faintly. "We've just forgotten what kindness looks like." They stayed there as the night deepened, hospital lights dimming. The rhythmic beeps inside the room became the quiet heartbeat of hope. And in that fragile silence, something wordless took root. A small, new beginning, in the most unlikely of places. The rain had stopped, but inside Ethan, another storm had begun. After Luna's crisis, he visited Westbridge almost every day. He brought small meals, toys, sometimes just sat quietly while Elena read to her daughter. Each time Luna managed a weak smile, something inside him stirred, a fragile sense of peace, mixed with fear that touching it might make it disappear. The first to notice the change wasn't Elena, but Vanessa Reed, Ethan's cousin, the company's sharp-tongued PR director. She strode into his office one morning, heels clicking sharply on marble. "Do you even know what people are saying about you?" she asked coolly. "I don't care about gossip," Ethan replied without looking up. "Maybe you should, because this time it's about you and the company." She threw a newspaper onto his desk. The headline screamed, "CEO Caldwell seen caring for unknown single mother. Romance or scandal?" Ethan frowned. "Nonsense? Who leaked this?" "That's what I'm here to find out," Vanessa said, her lips curling. "Who is she? I heard she's got debts, maybe even lost her job over embezzlement." Ethan stood abruptly. "Watch your words." "I'm just protecting you, Ethan. I don't want to see you taken advantage of." "No one's taking advantage of me." "Are you sure? Or has she already blinded you?" He said nothing. Vanessa smiled, the thin, knowing smile of someone who had found a weakness and decided to press it. The next day, she ordered a quiet, internal review. Under the guise of corporate security, she had people dig into Elena's past, every job, every address, every debt. When nothing surfaced, she fabricated details. "A former co-worker said she borrowed money and vanished," Vanessa claimed casually at a meeting. "And now she's living under the CEO's protection. Quite a coincidence, don't you think?" Rumors spread like wildfire. By the time the second article appeared, complete with photos of Ethan and Elena at the hospital, the damage was done. Ethan stormed into Vanessa's office. "What the hell have you done?" "My job," she said smoothly. "You're destroying an innocent person's life. Or saving you from your own weakness." He slammed the door and left, but when reporters began crowding Westbridge's entrance, even he began to fear for Elena's safety more than his own. That night he arrived at the hospital later than usual. Elena was packing Luna's clothes into a small bag. When she looked up, her face was calm. Too calm. "You don't have to explain," she said hoarsely. "Elena, I didn't know the press would—" "You didn't know? Or you didn't want to tell me you had doubts?" No, Ethan, she stopped him. When people truly trust each other, they don't need explanations. 1 second of hesitation is all it takes to know. He couldn't speak. Her eyes weren't angry, just hollow, full of the quiet grief of someone who'd run out of faith. She lifted Luna gently, the suitcase already zipped. Thank you for everything, but I can't stay somewhere I'm seen as a user. Outside, the rain began again. She walked down the corridor without turning back, shoulders trembling under the dim light. Ethan stood frozen, watching mother and child disappear around the corner, realizing too late that he had lost something more precious than anything he'd ever owned. And in the echo of that cold, rainy night, he finally understood. Sometimes doubt lasts only a heartbeat, but it's enough to destroy something that might have saved you. After that rainy night, Elena vanished from Ethan's life like smoke fading into the air. He called, texted, but there was no reply. The hospital room was empty. Only a small cloth doll lay on the bed. For days he returned to Westbridge, then stopped. Each morning he'd pick up his phone, almost call her, then set it down again. The silence between them grew thick, like a wall that neither could climb. Meanwhile, across town, Elena was trying to survive one day at a time. Her small apartment in South Los Angeles smelled of dampness and dust. Since leaving the hospital, she'd lost her job at the laundromat. The electricity had been cut. Each night she lit a candle, whispering promises into the dark. "We'll make it, Luna. I promise." But her voice trembled more with every word. One morning, a knock echoed through the door. 2 people in gray uniforms stood outside, badges gleaming. "Child Protective Services," the woman said. "We received a report that your child may be neglected." Elena froze. "Neglected? No, I take care of her. Please, come in." "I'm sorry, but we need to inspect the home." They stepped inside. The weak light revealed peeling walls, an unwashed bottle, a torn blanket on the chair. The man scribbled on his clipboard, "Unsuitable living environment." Elena's voice shook. "I'm poor, not unfit. I love my daughter." "We understand," the woman said gently, but distantly. "However, if conditions don't improve, we may have to consider temporary custody transfer." "No, please don't take her." Elena fell to her knees, tears flooding her face. "I just need time. Please, she's all I have." Across the city, in the glass towers of Caldwell Group, Vanessa Reed signed an email with a satisfied smile. On her screen, "Report to CPS. Case Elena Torres." "Sometimes," she whispered to herself, "you have to hurt someone to save the ones you love." That afternoon, Ethan burst into her office. "What the hell did you do, Vanessa?" She looked up, feigning innocence. "Do what?" He threw his phone onto the desk. On the screen played a recording, Vanessa's voice clear and sharp. "Yes, file the report. Write child neglect. We need pressure. Ethan has to wake up." Her face drained of color. "You recorded me?" "The system did," he said coldly. "You've gone too far." "You don't understand. She's using you." "No, Vanessa." His voice was low, furious. "You're destroying her just to keep me close." He stormed out before she could speak again. Rain started again, heavy and relentless, drumming against the windshield as he drove through the city like a man possessed. The address he'd once seen on her hospital forms guided him. Every red light felt like a punishment. When he reached the building, the old complex loomed gray and wet. Under the awning, 2 social workers held clipboards. "We've spoken to Ms. Torres," one said, "but the process for temporary separation has already begun." Ethan didn't wait. He sprinted up the stairs, his chest burning. The door to her apartment was ajar. Inside, Elena sat on the floor, clutching Luna against her chest, sobbing silently. 2 small suitcases sat beside her, packed in panic. A single candle flickered, casting their shadows on the wall, the silhouette of a mother on the edge of losing everything. Ethan knelt beside her, gently touching her shoulder. "Elena, I'm here. I have proof. They won't take her away." She lifted her face, eyes swollen, disbelief trembling in her voice. "What did you say?" "Vanessa did this, but I'll fix it. I swear." She stared at him, tears falling freely. Outside, an ambulance wailed in the distance, and for the first time in days, Elena no longer felt alone in the dark. The next morning, as the first light slipped through the torn curtain, Elena was still awake. Luna slept in her arms, breathing softly. Outside, the city murmured beneath the fading echo of rain. She didn't know how to keep going, only that at 10 o'clock the social workers would return and they might take her baby away. A soft knock came at the door. Her heart raced. She thought it was them. Too soon. But when the door opened, standing there was Margaret Caldwell, cane in hand, flanked by Joe and Linda, two elderly neighbors Elena had never seen before. Margaret smiled, firm, warm, and full of purpose. "Ethan told me everything. He's handling the rest. We're here to help you." Elena blinked, disbelieving. "Help? Me?" "No time for questions. We've got 2 hours," the old woman said briskly. "Joe, the electricity. Linda, groceries. I'll start cleaning." The tiny apartment came alive. Linda hurried out with shopping bags. Joe worked on the fuse box. A click, then light flooded the room. Warm, golden light spilled over Elena's face, and she broke into tears. Why are you doing this for me?" Margaret smiled while wiping the table. "Because when I was your age, I was you, alone, with a baby, and no one to help. I promised myself if I ever could, I'd never let another woman go through that." Elena's voice trembled. "I don't know how to thank you." "Don't thank me," Margaret said. "Just start again." Joe's laughter boomed from the corner. "Power's back! The fridge is humming again!" As if on cue, Linda returned, breathless but triumphant, arms full of groceries, bread, milk, fruit, even a handful of yellow daisies. "A home needs life to feel like home," she said, setting flowers into a glass jar. Soon the apartment looked new. Sunlight glowed against clean walls. The air smelled of soap and warm bread. Margaret sat at the small table, pulling a signed document from her bag. "This is your contract. You'll work as a seamstress in my workshop. It's not charity. It's a real job, with pay and insurance. When the social worker comes, show them this." Elena stared at the paper, hands trembling. "Will they believe me?" "They'll see you have work, support, and people who believe in you." Elena threw her arms around her. "You don't know what this means to me." Margaret stroked her hair softly. "I do, because once I prayed for a hand like this too." At exactly 10, the knock came. The same woman from yesterday stepped in, clipboard in hand. This time her eyes widened. Bright room, tidy shelves, refrigerator humming, the scent of baked bread in the air. Luna crawled on the rug, giggling at the sunlight. "This is quite a change," she said. "Yes," Elena replied, smiling through shaky breath. "We made some improvements." Margaret handed her the paper. "She now has stable employment at my workshop." The woman skimmed it, then smiled. "Everything appears in order. I see no reason to remove the child." When the door closed, Elena collapsed onto the chair, covering her face as tears streamed down. Luna crawled to her, touching her cheek, laughing innocently. Margaret placed a hand on her shoulder. "You see, my dear, family isn't always the one we're born into. Sometimes it's the people who choose to stand beside us when the world walks away." Elena looked up through tears, smiling. "Then today I was born again." Margaret chuckled softly. No, dear, today you were found. The Los Angeles afternoon was bathed in gold, sunlight spilling through the small windows of Margaret's sewing shop, filling the air with the scent of new fabric. Elena sat by her machine, her stitches neat and steady, her gaze calm. Luna lay in the corner drawing with crayons, giggling every now and then. The bell above the door rang. When Elena looked up, Ethan was there, thinner, eyes tired, holding a small bouquet of yellow daisies. No suit, just a wrinkled shirt, humility where pride used to be. "I thought you wouldn't want to see me," he said softly. "But I need to tell you the truth, even if it's late." Elena didn't speak. Her hands trembled slightly as she set her scissors down. Ethan took a breath, voice low, confessional. "It was Vanessa. She filed the report to Child Services. She thought she was protecting me, but it was me. I let it happen. I was afraid of what people would say, afraid to look weak, afraid to believe in something good again." He met her eyes. "I was terrified of losing control. But when they almost took Luna from you, I realized what I was truly afraid of was losing you." The room went silent. Even the hum of the machine stopped. Elena's eyes glistened. "You came here for forgiveness?" He shook his head. "No, I came because I love you, not out of pity, but because you taught me something all my money never could. That real strength is daring to believe in kindness." She stepped closer. Sunlight caught between them, warm and trembling. "You know," she said quietly, "there was a time I hated you. But when I thought I'd lost everything, Margaret came knocking on my door, and I understood. Maybe you still believed in me, just not enough to fight for it then." She smiled faintly through her tears. "I forgive you, not for your sake, but because I don't want my heart to close to good things." Ethan lowered his head, took her hand gently. "Thank you. If you'll let me, I want to start again, not with promises, but with actions." Months later, the Miguel Torres Foundation was born, named after Elena's late husband, dedicated to helping single mothers rebuild their lives. Ethan stood beside her at the launch, no longer the distant CEO, but a man reclaimed by compassion. Margaret sat in the front row, her smile tender as morning light. Luna ran around holding the hands of Joe and Linda, her miracle neighbors. Years passed. At the 10th anniversary of the foundation, the lights dimmed as Luna, now grown, took the stage. Her voice was clear and steady. "My father, Miguel Torres, saved lives with his hands. My stepfather, Ethan Caldwell, saves lives with his heart." The room fell silent before erupting into applause. Elena looked at Ethan, her eyes shimmering with pride. He squeezed her hand and whispered, "See? Look how far we've come." She smiled. "Not far, just right where we were meant to be." Outside, sunlight poured over the garden where 3 generations stood together: Margaret, Elena, Ethan, and Luna. Their laughter drifted through the warm air, bright and whole. No more fear, no more loss, only 3 hearts once broken, now beating as one. A quiet proof that hope can begin anywhere, even from a lonely night in a hospital hallway long ago.